Windmill Crusaders presents Raptor Hills Games, a podcast about prehistoria in board games. For better or for worse? Well, that's the first line of the book, and it just about sums up my thoughts about this. Okay, so we're talking Apex Astounding Thrills and other marvelous pulp stories, a 1930s diesel pulp adventure. Now, you may recognize the name Apex from our previous episode about the Apex Theropod deck building game. Okay, well, let's talk about this one. We wanted to put that game, the better foot forward for this franchise, because it goes a bit downhill from here.
So, to explain, it came from the Apex Theropod deck building game not franchise, but IP. Created initially by Herschel Hofmeyer, bought up by Outland Entertainment. They decided to hold a fourth Kickstarter. We'll have a more explanation of that, but basically Apex TDBG had 3 Kickstarters, and they had a fourth one for Apex that was based on an anthology series, on an anthology series of Pulp Fiction dinosaur stories. With that Kickstarter, we got Apex Astounding Thrills, the tabletop RPG based on dinosaurs, Pulp Fiction, and more. The cover art is by Herschel Hofmeyer, with interior art by Gur Kurti, and the writing created by Alan Barr, an experienced tabletop RPG writer who's got a number of them that I've heard good things about.
And to be fair, I haven't read any of his other stuff, but it makes me wonder what happened here, because I don't think it was the game designer being a bad game designer, but let's get into that. To start off with,
what's good? I like the world, the story, the things that they've built into it, the way they have the world designed for the dinosaurs. It's a sort of lost island of the dinosaurs. It's Atlantis. They also leave a lot open for you to make up stuff. I like the classes, the theming, the story. They do a good job with the world capturing the Pulp Fiction feel. And
I really, really, really want to like this game. I really do, because Okay, so. Okay.
It has some interesting mechanics as well.
So
let's start with the good.
Let me back up. So it's 1930s, so you've got the Nazis, you've got Prohibition era stuff, you've got your dinosaurs on an island, you've got a lot of cool things, you've got mad scientists and psychics with weird powers, and I love that stuff. That's my jam. And the art doesn't disappoint. I love the art.
It's an interesting sort of black and white style meant to evoke kind of Aztec ideas.
Yes, and also the cover art is very eye-catching.
By Herschel Hofmeyer. I had a whole rant about his art already.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a guy sitting backwards in a T-Rex saddle, shooting a gun, while the T-Rex is clearly roaring at something.
What more could you want?
What more could you want? But, okay.
And there's some interesting mechanics, too. You've got the classes are interesting, and the way you build your character is interesting.
So there's a lot that could have been amazing here.
Yes, the game has a lot of potential that was failed. And
in fact, I have less gripes about the mechanics in the game than I do some other very glaring problems. It's not a badly designed game.
Well, I've had my rant, now it's your turn.
Okay, so... Okay. So we gotta explain the basics of the system. Basically, and the book isn't as well written as I'd like to explain this, so you have to piece it together, flipping back and forth through the book. But basically, the way that this system works is it's a D6 based system, except when it's a D20 based system. So for most actions, you'd roll a D6, add a thing, and call it a day. But sometimes your character makes saving throws to do specific effects from their class, and during combat, it's all D20 based. They lift advantage and disadvantage and a few other things like the NPC loyalty system from D&D 5th edition.
And it has grit points as part of the character advancement.
Mm-hmm. So it has a meta resource called grit points you can spend to make your rolls better. And you can see in here a lot of reference to like older styles of things. Like the characters have each of the classes has a different XP bonus, where like that stat, your rating in that stat makes you accumulate XP a little faster. So it encourages you very strongly to class or to spec into a very specific stat. Honestly, not too much. One mechanic that I really do like is the usage die stuff, and I
Yes.
actually am lifting some of that to my own RPG that I've been working on.
The game has a built-in equipment damage.
What?
The game has built-in durability system for its equipment.
Well,
That's what he's
not
talking
necessarily durability. In fact, it's not usually durability. It's more quantity. So if you have
Though
a
it
pile,
does work for durability as well.
if you have a pile of torches, that pile has a rating of like this one's got a D12 usage die, or this is a D6 usage die. Whenever you use that, you roll that. If you roll a 1, you downgrade the die to the next lowest size. So D6 becomes a D4, D8 becomes a D6, so on. And only when you downgrade your final die are you out. With firearms, this is used to track ammo and to tell you when you need to reload. So, I like it. I like that thing. And in fact, I like a lot of what this game brings to the table. Let's, okay. So, this game is a bit confusingly written. Like I said, you have to piece things together for yourself from various different places. But that is less egregious than the things that really infuriate me about this game.
So, a quick example of how it's poorly put together. If you attempt to create a character, you may find that some of the charts you require for the character classes have been placed under the wrong character class for the chart. There's some things that just don't make sense for the character, and then you start looking, you find that makes sense for this other class, and that class is the one that makes sense for this one.
Yes, and that is bizarre. I don't get it. Why is it like this? But moreover, this game promises things in several places that just aren't there.
For example, you can't play an RPG without a character sheet, which it promises will be at the end of the book, and is not.
Yep, where's the character sheet? Where is it? It does tell you could just write it on an index card.
Which you could.
And that the sheet will be available on their website. It isn't.
It is not, no.
Oh.
It is always helpful to have a character sheet to look at, even if you're drawing your own.
Yeah. This is far from the only thing that's missing either. There are entire charts missing, like the NPC loyalty.
Yes, the game has a system, or should have a system, for companions. It promises one for companions and NPC followers, only for the charts and information on it to be largely missing.
Almost entirely. And
multiple other missing tables.
Just thinking about it.
Some of the writing is poor. There is typos here, and as far as what went wrong, I mean, it's
I wanted
awesome
to talk
art,
a
it's
little.
Alan Barr.
Hold on, I have a few more gripes. Another problem is that the game, the game focuses on a lot of things, and there's really cool stuff here, like Edisonade style gadgets and gizmos that some of the classes can have,
and
magic powers, having a feral child sort of class where you were raised by dinosaurs.
Getting
it's
character,
really cool.
You've got character advancement by coming back from your expeditions and publishing on your finds.
Exactly, I love that mechanic. That is awesome. It's very flavorful. It's very good. It's good. But the biggest disappointment in terms of features that are actually there, because the biggest disappointment is the lack of features
that are promised.
The But let's take a look at the dinosaurs, shall we?
There's not a lot of dinosaurs or a lot of monsters in the book. What's there are fun, but it seems to be missing some crucial information that you need to play the dinosaurs. In our testing of trying to play the game, we found combat with the monsters. I had to make stuff up of, okay, so this, I'm just going to say, I think this is what this means, even though the book doesn't explain that.
And also, the stat blocks are just so dead simple that you... Like, okay, let's read the Tyrannosaurus Rex stat block from start to finish. No changes. Tyrannosaurus Rex. King of the dinosaurs, this enormous theropod is a dangerous hunter of humans and other dinosaurs alike. Hit points 90, defense 15, reduction 6. Attacks. Chomp. Plus 12 to hit. 2d12 damage. Ignores any worn reduction. That's it. It has one attack, and it's just a pile of numbers aside from that. And that's a running thing that I dislike about dinosaur RPGs, is that a lot of them just don't bother to give their dinos any character.
In our discussion on what makes a good dinosaur game, tabletop and video game, we have a section we talk specifically about RPGs, and that is a big point that Thomas makes there, is you need them to feel mechanically like dinosaurs and not pile of numbers that could be assigned to a random monster.
I mean, not to mention, what's the difference between, say, let's see here, an ornithomimus and just like a horse or something? Because this one, it has hit points 20, defense 15, reduction 1. It has a claws attack, which you could really easily flavor to anything. It just does plus 7, 1d10 damage. And the ornithomimus can be ridden, treated as a vehicle with a movement rate of plus 1 during chases. That's it. What's the difference between that and a horse that can kick? I don't see one. There's nothing here that says ornithomimus. And the thing is, RPGs can get that right about lots of other things. Kobolds feel very different. You've got different kobold tactics, different kobold specializations, and you've got, say, gnolls. Gnolls are a little more interchangeable, but even so, they have some things that feel uniquely them. And, I mean, there are fan homebrews and Kickstarters with dinosaurs for 5th edition that feel so much better than the stock stuff, which, what's the difference between a giant panther and an Allosaurus? There's not. And the point is, I'm very disappointed in the dinosaurs, because that's, the big draw here, and you've just given them a big pile of stats and said, okay, this is a T-Rex.
And I'm going to bring this up. There is an idea out there I encountered that basically says that when something is bad, there is a level of bad that we can tolerate and still enjoy. But the moment it crosses a certain line, every single bad thing about it will annoy you far more than it would otherwise.
Yeah,
if you like a movie, you can excuse some bad stuff. But that same bad stuff in a different movie that's already crossed the threshold, you will be complaining about to no end.
Exactly.
And
these problems aren't not present in other media. And
that is unfortunately part of what happens here. We have things that we like, that we love. It just fails the potential, and so we start critiquing it more than we might otherwise. And so I even have a critique about the printing, where there's this error in printing, and it's probably just an error in my copy, but who knows, maybe it's an error in all the copies, where it's this weird page was folded in on itself and has this weird shape, and I don't even know what's going on, how that happens.
Makes it hard to read the very important table that's
universal attribute bonus table is blocked by this little folded stapled page thingy.
Staple? It's glued.
It's not stapled, but it's kind of glued in. It's just weird and printed weird, and missing tables, poorly designed characters, lots of great stuff that we love that could have been better.
And so you said you have a theory on why this is this way.
It's Alan Barr, an experienced tabletop RPG writer who's written several things I've heard good things about. Herschel Hofmeyer art, great art on the inside, good mechanics and ideas. But when we followed the Kickstarter that it was a part of, I only got the RPG. I wasn't as interested in the anthology. Was interested, just didn't have the money for both, and I took this over that. And we were sent a document that was sort of the first look at it. It seemed, from what we heard, that there was going to be some differences. We were sent an EU document. Later, I eventually was sent the physical copy that I'd ordered. There was absolutely no differences between the draft that we were sent and this. So it sounds to me like, as much as Outstanding Entertainment did so much for Apex Theropod deck building game to fix things, fix its reputation, get everyone the Kickstarter items that they needed, this, instead, they tried, decided there wasn't enough money in it, stopped paying Alan Barr after his first or second draft, or maybe even didn't even look and didn't realize that he wasn't done with it yet, and so he just never finished it, and they just published it with the art as is. And now we have a game that feels like it's a first draft.
And I don't have a better theory, so I'm going to have to second that one. But, I mean, if people are listening and have a theory, please let us know. And if you have any fixes to the game that might make it better.
And gotta admit, there's probably not enough interest for them to have actually continued it. I've tried doing some research online. No one talked about this game whatsoever.
Well, I saw a little bit.
Hardly any, though. Very little.
I saw one review that was singing its praises, but they didn't mention any of the problems, so I can't
We
help
tried
but
double
wonder.
checking to see if we got a bad copy. My brother bought the digital version much later. Still had all the same problems aside from that, physical problem I mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Art. Let's talk about the art for a second,
Yes,
because we
cover
forgot.
is fantastic.
What about accuracy?
Accuracy?
That's our thing.
It's, again, a very stylized art, not stylized in the cutesy art style of Happy Little Dinosaurs, but instead stylized to be much more jagged
cartoony
shapes. Jagged and cartoony. For example, this dinosaur, it's got jagged, spiked
You
teeth.
keep saying that word. They're going to get tired of it.
Jagged, undulate.
Stop it.
Anyway.
That's a funny reference.
Anyway, there is still some accuracy, though. You have this picture here that shows some vehicles driving alongside some ornithomimids. The hand posture is wrong, as is fairly normal in art, but it has the beaks, it has feathers very clearly on these, whereas some of the art seems to have more scaled dinosaurs. This depicts some tyrannosaur looking into a cave that someone's exploring. No feathers there, and it looks almost like it could be shrink-wrapped if it was a different art style.
And I want to also draw attention to a particular... Oh, take a look at this one. You don't think that the sauropod should be able to do that.
No, so the picture shows a sauropod bending its head down to be wrapped by some sort of medical nurse.
Except that the head is...
This actually brings in an interesting aspect of science. What could sauropods do with their necks? Because it's something that is being talked about in science a lot right now. We often see S-shaped sauropods in art, or them with their heads way up high, and studies into the biomechanics of what they could have done based on what we have show that many of them would have held their heads much closer to the ground and been more like a lawnmower with the length of the neck allowing much more variability for them to be able to eat grass, shrubbery, and more without much movement of its position as the advantage. Whereas some sauropods, titanosaurs in particular, we find likely had the ability to hold their heads more upright. But the ability to hold their neck down flat against the ground is
probably not.
As if they're trying to listen to something, is not something from any of the biomechanical
neck looks almost
studies.
Broken, and they are putting bandages on the neck.
So it could be broken, but
I guess, but that would
dead.
probably means that even if it's not dead, they gotta put it down
Yeah.
because of the way animals work. Here's a good one though.
Yes, so this is some sort of dromaeosaurid. The bill, the mouth specifically looks almost like the bill of a bird, which is a bit odd for a dromaeosaur, but it is at least nearly fully.
It could also
it's
be
nearly fully
just a bit more stylized.
Yeah, it's likely just stylization, but it does look a little odd. The feathers are present. The hands seem to be it's fully feathered.
I think
Has
there's
a nice
fewer
dromaeosaur tail.
I think there's a few fewer feathers towards the front of the hand than there should be.
That is common, unfortunately, in depictions of dromaeosaurs.
It's got kind of a little cockatiel sort of hairdo at the back there.
Also common in a lot of dromaeosaur depictions.
And I like the tail.
The tail, I believe there's evidence to say that the tail did fan out like that, as I recall, which is why it's becoming so much more common. That because it did, that is what it would have looked like. The tail fanned out in that interesting blade shape.
Yeah. So in terms of accuracy, it can only get so accurate just by virtue of being so stylized, but there's a mix of really good and kind of awful. Speaking of which, or not awful, but, very silly.
Yes. So this one here... one of the classes is, of course, a martial artist, found in Pulp Fiction. He is kicking a
plesiosaur.
Plesiosaur with a massively oversized head.
Yeah, and his
kicking
neck
it
is
in the face.
Oh, his neck is
making
such
a
a Z shape. That shouldn't be possible.
This should not be possible.
But also, it's just so charming too. And how is this guy doing his flying kick? He's over the water. What did he lunge off from?
Probably a rock or some land that's out of picture. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what we've got for today. The art looks good. There's interesting potential, but the game falls flat in a number of areas. What is your rating?
1. I wish I could give it higher. I really do.
I'm the same. I'm going to say 1.5. Because there's that potential, and there's stuff that's good, and the world is fun, and good story potential there.
It's on the high end of the ones.
So,
if there was just a little less wrong with it,
it's disappointing, and that pushes it so much into a 1 that it's. Well, you could play it. You have to be adding stuff in your own. It's unplayable as is, which has to make it a 1.
If it had more of the things it needed, it would bump up to a 2. And if some of the problems we mentioned about the confusing book and the kind of blandness of some of the things were better, it would get to 3 or maybe even 4. But 1. All right.
1.5.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse. Have an astounding day. For more information on the Raptor Hills podcast or Windmill Crusaders, please see our website in the description or show notes below. Thank you for listening.